Research and discovery. Futuris.
Bonjour.
It won't be long before we have robots pretty well everywhere that'll be able to understand 4 or 5 basic human emotions. If I tap on this robot's head, he'll express surprise. I'll show you.
Robots will soon be able to recognize emotions from complex human facial expressions, more complex expressions than those they can already recognize. Robots will also be able to recognize emotional states just by looking at the movement of the human body.
If I stroke him on the head like this, he likes it.
And they'll also be able to respond to different human emotional states.
Now stop that.
In this robot nursery in Hertfordshire, north of London, robots are adapting to their environment and their users' emotions. Some mimic people's movements, like newborn animals mimic their mothers. The robots can identify a person by analysing his or her walking pattern with cameras and sensors. They then follow the person, adapting their own speed and direction. If the human abruptly changes the way she or he walks, the robot won't recognise the person anymore and will walk away in distrust.
People don't walk in the same way when they're happy or angry, and they have lots of different walking patterns. We want the robot to learn to adapt itself not only to different people, but also to the same person when he or she is in different emotional states.
Some robots can understand if they themselves are in trouble and will ask for help. Faced with an environment it doesn't recognise, this robotic dog starts barking. When it recognises its user or the person pets it or talks to it, it calms down.
Everything that happens here is new to him, so he gets pretty excited. If the level of excitement reaches a certain limit, he'll ask his user to help calm down, so that he can continue his experience.
Robots can now even interact with humans and show different emotions. When this robot recognises its developer, it expresses happiness. When the scientist is no longer there, the robot expresses sadness. Scientists have used complex algorithmic calculations and artificial neural networks to give robots emotions.
When it sees and detects a face, a level within inside the robot actually builds up, which relates to its happy emotion. So the more it sees a face, the happier it becomes. If that face disappears from view, so the robot can no longer see anyone, then another level starts to increase, which is its unhappy or its sad emotion.
The robot nursery in Hertfordshire is part of a European research project called Feelix Growing, aimed at developing robots that can adapt to new and changing environments. Scientists hope the robots will eventually be able to respond according to the behaviour and emotional states of their users.
We don't just want to create pet or service robots, we want them to become social companions. That's why we're teaching them to interpret, to understand our emotions. Then if someone's depressed, the robot can try to cheer them up, or if the person's stressed, the robot can calm them down.
Researchers say there are many ways that caring robots could help us. They could, for instance, serve as companions or care providers.
There are people who have difficulties with social interaction, people who might prefer to spend time with a machine rather than with another human being. For example, people with autism. That's why we're exploring how robots could improve the life of those with autism.
Scientists in this Paris laboratory are doing experiments to see how children with and without autism react to robots. Emma, who is not autistic, has just got back from play school and has a rendezvous with Roboto. At 22 months old, Emma is healthy and has no particular behavioural problems. When Roboto changes his expression, she reacts with interest, showing amusement and sometimes surprise. Researchers will compare the exchanges between Roboto and children with and without behavioural difficulties. They hope the results will create new therapy options for children with problems like autism.
One of the robot's most important roles is to be able to help in cases where humans can't cope. Humans don't cope well when they're asked to keep doing the same thing, or when they're asked to keep doing something at exactly the same speed, or when they have to keep their emotions completely stable. We can't ask that of a human being, but we can ask it of a robot.
Jacqueline Nadel and her research assistant have done various tests with severely autistic children. In many cases, Roboto was able to break through their emotional wall.
We've seen children with severe autism showing sadness when the robot puts on a sad face. We've seen these children frowning. They've also reacted happily when the robot smiled. Not only have these children shown different facial expressions in response to the robot's facial movements, but they've also been able to say which emotion is being expressed.
Engineers at Aldebaran Robotics in Paris are also involved in the Feelix Growing project. They are working to develop now a service humanoid that will be programmed to do a wide range of tasks, from serving drinks to providing first aid. The company's managing director hopes the research on emotions will help integrate humanoids into our society.
If we're to have robots in our everyday lives, one of the most important things will be how their users accept them. Lots of elements come into play, not least emotional expression. Many women are very reticent. They see us entering a strange new world with robots everywhere, and they aren't sure that they want their ailing elderly father or their children interacting with robots. But if we get over this barrier, there's no limit to what robots can do. Emotional expression is one of the barriers we need to cross.
The theory is relatively simple, but there are numerous challenges ahead in teaching robots about behaviour and emotions, and there are several ethical issues to be grappled with as well.
Once we envisage just robots caring for sick patients, then a host of ethical and philosophical problems come up. Our job is to help create the best possible relationships between people, and robots can be a very useful tool in achieving that objective.
Robots will always be computers. They only express the emotions they're programmed to express. Let's not get carried away. We're not talking about real-life behaviour. Maybe in a century, but not yet.